Thank you, Anne. Thank you, Charlie, for having me here. I'd like to acknowledge that we are speaking from the unceded territory of the Algonquin Anishinaabe people. My name is Fareed Khan. I'm a human rights activist and anti-hate activist and the founder of the advocacy group Canadians United Against Hate. Tomorrow, February 15th, is Canada's Flag Day. It marks the 60th anniversary of the adoption of the red and white maple leaf flag, a symbol of Canada recognized around the world and a symbol that Canadians are very proud to display. As we mark this occasion, we're reminded of the values that have made Canada a beacon of hope and freedom. But today we're also reminded of the very real threat hanging over our country, the threat of Donald Trump and his fascist and racist ambitions. I'm here to speak today as a Canadian citizen, as an immigrant, as a child of refugee parents. I'm here to speak for the millions of Canadians who are watching with alarm as Canada-US relations worsen day by day with every new word that comes out of the mouth of Donald Trump as he refers to Canada. And because of Trump's threats to wreck Canada's economy and annex us as the 51st state. I'm here to say to Donald Trump and his MAGA cultists that Canada will never become part of the U.S., and it'll only happen when hell freezes over and all Canadians are gone from this land. For my entire life, Canada has stood tall as a nation that values diversity, equity, and inclusion. But with Trump's threats, these values are also under threat. A vision of the future under Trump can be seen in the fascist edicts which that have come out of his office, which target migrants, refugees, the LGBTQ2 community, women, Muslims, vulnerable minorities. Edicts which perpetuate hate, bigotry, misogyny, transphobia, and xenophobia, and violate fundamental human rights. And make no mistake, Trump is a fascist. That's not my assessment, but that of 11 former high-ranking officials from his previous administration, including his longest-serving chief of staff and his former chief of defense staff.
Not this time. We created it. Not this time.
My parents and millions of others chose to emigrate to Canada because of its values and the economic opportunities it presented. They chose to settle here over other nations because they wanted their children to be Canadian, not American. And so it's only natural that immigrants, along with all patriotic Canadians, stand up and defend our country against Trump's unofficial declaration of war, which is what his threats to impose 25% tariffs and annex Canada are. Trump's repeated comments about annexing Canada and his actions reveal a sociopathy that was described in detail in the 2017 book, The Dangerous Case of Donald Trump. In it, 27 psychiatrists and mental health professionals made it clear that Trump is a sociopath who poses a threat not just to the U.S., but to the entire world. Some of the assessments of Trump's personality in the book include the following, and mind you, these are assessments made by professionals who work in the area of mental health. Trump is an impulsive, immature, incompetent person who, when in the position of ultimate power, would easily slide into the role of tyrant. His sociopathic characteristics are undeniable and present a profound threat to democracy. He is profoundly an evil man exhibiting malignant narcissism. And if left unchecked, his pathological narcissism could lead to World War III. I would encourage members of the media who haven't looked at this book to please take a look at it and get a real look into the kind of person that Donald Trump is, if you don't know already from the insanity that comes out of his mouth. To our political leaders, I say Canada cannot engage with him as we do with other normal leaders. He has shown himself to be an enemy to Canada, and we have to treat him as a clear and present danger to our country and to our allies. And to the Canadian media, I say, begin telling the story of the fascist sociopath occupying the White House using that language. so that Canadians in the world know the very real danger he presents to peace and stability. During World War II, over 45,000 Canadian soldiers, sailors, and airmen paid the ultimate price.
Downplaying the opioid crisis that Canadians are suffering from. Nearly 50,000 Canadians have lost their lives.
To defend Canada from a fascist threat, as did millions of others from allied nations. Let's not let those sacrifices be in vain as we face another fascist threat today. And as we mark the 60th anniversary of the Canadian flag, all Canadians who say that they love Canada, who want to continue to build the just society that Pierre Trudeau spoke of over 50 years ago, who want to protect our communities from the fascist, racist, misogynistic, and transphobic demagogue that is trying to destroy Canada, we need to stand together and defend our flag, our country, and our sovereignty.
Good morning and happy Valentine's Day. I want to say this morning how much I love my country. We don't tend to do that in Canada. We think that that's kind of gauche. We don't feel we need to say how much we love our country. But when we see the criminal gang that has taken control in Washington telling us we do not have a right to our nation, well, oh yeah. Not only am I going to love my country and its values and the people from one end of this beautiful nation to another, but I'm going to work with those ordinary Canadians to defend our right to continue to exist as an independent nation. And for this, on the eve of the 60th anniversary of the Canadian flag, I encourage Canadians to reflect what that symbol means. That symbol that has been in war zones, that symbol that has been, as Canadians went to fight famines in other countries, that symbol of openness and inclusion, that is the direct opposite to the politics of Elon Musk and Donald Trump. This week we saw the shameful actions by Donald Trump to negotiate with Vladimir Putin, another gangster, to sell the people of Ukraine out. Mr. Putin thinks that Vladimir Putin is a savvy genius and he detests our country. Well, he's sending us a very clear message of the kind of man he is. Our neighbors are no longer our allies. We are dealing with a regime next door to us that is ignoring the international rule of law, and we have to take this dead serious. As a nation, with our political leaders, but with ordinary Canadians. So what do we do right now? Well, I'm extremely encouraged by the incredible response we've received from the Pledge for Canada that's now, just in the space of 2 weeks, had over 62,000 people sign up. People from across the political spectrum. Former Prime Minister Kim Campbell, former Attorney General Alan Rock, former Premier Danny Williams, but also the incredible artists and Indigenous activists and labor activists and ordinary people across this country who said that there's a value to our nation that we're willing to defend. And I also want to encourage and thank the ordinary people who on their own began the boycott of all things American. Now, some might think, well, you know, if you just choose not to go down to Tennessee this year, who's going to notice? Well, right now we're seeing the American tourism industry is in full-on panic. There are now over $2 billion in travel that is at risk. That's 140,000 American jobs. That's if just 10% of Canadians cancel their trips. It's still too early to say how many are canceling, but from the evidence that we're gathering, it's much, much higher than 10%. And it's about sending a message to Texas Governor Greg Abbott, who said Canada was going to learn a lesson. Oh, really? Texas is going to teach Canada a lesson. Well, we've got $400 million worth of travel that goes to Texas, Mr. Abbott. How about we teach you a lesson and say, we got better places to go than Texas. If that's your attitude of Canadians, we will not go. Hell no, we will not go. The boycott is going to target many, many areas of the United States that are very vulnerable right now. Kentucky has already started to speak up about the huge losses that they're facing in Kentucky bourbon and Kentucky whiskeys because their number one market is Canadians. So when Canadians stop buying, it's sending a message. And we know this is the only way right now that Americans are going to be able to put pressure on Donald Trump. Because what's at risk here is the future of an international order where we respect the rights of countries to be independent, we respect the international rule of law, we respect our neighbors and borders, and this is something Mr. Trump is saying he will not respect. So on this festival where we celebrate Canada as a nation and our flag, I am encouraged. I want to thank Canadians. I want to say we are strong, we do not bend, and we will never, ever, ever kiss the ring of that gangster from Mar-a-Lago. So let's celebrate the 60th anniversary for Canada and our flag in a way that we have never done before.